everyone, my name is Giovanna Proença, and today we're going to do Commerce, the project 2 of CS50, web programming with Python and JavaScript. So basically in this project we're going to design an eBay e-commerce where we're going to have some listings that we can create, we can place some bids, we can give some comments and add to our watch list, okay? And basically in this project we're going to work with Django, SQL, HTML, CSS, and some other things that we saw during this course, okay? So this video solution is made for those who have already completed the assignment and want to have an alternative view about the problem. We totally discourage plagiarism. So basically, to make a listing, we need a couple of things, like the name of the listing, the description, an image that will be from a URL, the price, the initial price at least, and then we can work with the price in the other parts, who is the owner, and then we're gonna add the category, okay? So to make this, we kind of have to work with the class, all right? So before we start, let's see how this works. A class is a blueprint of creating objects. In our case, we want to build listings. To build a listing, we need to know what information is required. So to make an object of type listing, we need the class to give a blueprint of it. Let's suppose that we want to build a listing object Bulbasaur. As we can see, the listing is made of a title, description, image URL, price, the owner of the listing, if the listing is active, and the category. The title, description, and image URL will be a char field because we just need characters to make them. The price will be an integer field, which we will accept only numbers. The is active field will be a boolean because we need to keep track of whether the listing is active or not. The owner will be a foreign key field because we need to make a relationship between the user table and the listing table to tell them Bulbasaur is a listing made by Giovanna, for example. And finally, the category field will be a foreign key as well, because we need to get the available categories we have. So the first task we're going to do in here, we're creating these models, okay? And we're going to work with only creating for the listing. During the project, we're going to create for the other ones, okay? So let's see our VS Code. Basically, in models, we already have for the user, okay? And later on, we're going to work with this user where we can create a new user with password and email, all right? But right now, let's create the listing. So basically, in this part, we're going to create a blueprint of what a listing need to exist, okay? So all the particularity, the little parts that we need to make a listing exist, okay? So we're going to do models.model, and we're going to put in here everything a listing needs to be acceptable. So first we need a title, and this will be our foreign key, so foreign key, char field, okay? And here the max length will be of 30, all right? Then we're gonna have description, and it will be a char field again. So I'm gonna just put a max length of a greater number. Here I'm gonna put like 300, I don't know. We need the image URL, okay? So here it will be a char field as well, because I'm gonna put 1000 because we're gonna receive the link of the email address. Then we need the price, and it will be models.float field, okay? We also need to know if it's active or not, so I'm gonna create a variable is active, okay? And here will be a boolean field, and the default will be equals to true. Okay? Then we need to know the owner and the category. So the owner, we're gonna get, like we saw in the animation, it's gonna be a foreign key. So we're gonna grab information from the user table and we're gonna reuse in here in our listing, okay? So we're gonna use models.foreign key. And what table are we gonna work with this data? The user. Then we're gonna use the onDelete equals to cascade. So basically I fix it here, so it's models.cascade. So what is this onDelete models.cascade? Basically if the user, if we delete the user, it will delete this listing as well because the user does not exist anymore, okay? The blank equals to true and no equals to true we're gonna use to avoid crashing our code, and related name equals to user. Then I'm gonna have here category, and it will be a foreign key, but I didn't create a class yet. So I'm gonna make a class here called category, okay? And it will be models.model. And in here, the only field I'm gonna have is the category that I'm gonna call category name, for example. And here it will be models.char field, and I'm gonna give a max length of 50. Okay, let me remove here these double models. So I'm gonna use here the models.foreign key to grab this foreign key. And here I'm gonna grab from category, and I'm gonna have the onDelete equals to models.cascade, blank equals to true, null equals to true, and related name equals to category. Okay, and that's it. Now that we have this, we have to stop our server, okay, and we have to run Python 3 manage.py make migrations auctions. It's gonna run and create these tables these models in our database, and then we need to do migrate. So Python 3 manage.py migrate, okay, and it will create all of this for us. Then we can run it again. Before we run it again, let's create this super user because I want to show you how the Django admin interface works, and this is one of the tasks we need to do in this project. So here I'm gonna say create super user, and I'm gonna create a super user. So here the username I'm gonna give G, email address I'm gonna leave empty, I'm gonna put a password, put the password again, and say yes. Okay, so now we can run again our project, and I want to show you how the Django admin works. So in here, if I refresh and I log in as G, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I log in. Here we can see the Django administration, all right. And here, this is our project so far. If I log in with our G, this is the page where we have in our hands. The administrator is only available for the super user, okay. Any other people that want to use the website won't see. So this is a way that we can see the database. And how can we see the database? So basically, we need to work with our admin.py, all right. This is one of the tasks we need to do. So first, we're gonna from .models, we're gonna import the classes that we made. So here, user, category, and listing. Okay, I think this is the name of the models we have. Perfect. Then we're gonna do admin.site.register, and we're gonna register every model that we built. So here I'm gonna copy and paste, and I'm gonna change the name in here. So instead of user, it will be category, and instead of user, now it will be listing. Okay. So now if I refresh in here, we will be able to see all the auctions, all the classes we made. Okay. So for example, here for the user, if I click, it's gonna appear G, that is the super user we made, and we have the password, the last login, the status of super user, the username. Here basically we are storing here we can see the database, everything we have. In the categories it's empty, so let's fill in with some categories. So my project will be building e-commerce of Pokemons. Okay, so I'm gonna have fire, water, and let me create a new one, water, save and add one, and I'm gonna put in here plant because of Bulbasaur. Okay, and now we have these three objects. So like I said, a class is a blueprint, and in class we create objects. So here we're creating one object for each category we want to do. Okay, and how can we display here? Because it's not so clear what is category object, right? So we can change the way that we are displaying our category. Here we can define an str function, and we can display here the return category name. I'm going to show you what this will change. If I do here display self category name, and I refresh this in here, do you see here saying category object 1, 2, 3? If I refresh, it will appear actually the name of the category, okay? And I want to do the same for the listing. So here I'm going to define, and instead of name, I'm going to put in here title, because I want to display the name of the Pokemon. All right, so now let's build one listing, let's build one Pokemon, and then we can build the other one. So first, these are all the options. So like we can see in here, we've created these options here, all right, these fields of our listing, and these are the exact fields that we need to input when we are creating a new listing, okay? So right now I'm going to fill in with all the data about Charmander, and you're going to see it really fast. Now for the price, I'm gonna put here like $10. The owner, I'm gonna put myself, and the category, I'm gonna put fire, okay? And if I save, now we have Charmander in our database, okay? But creating this, this means that our models are working so far, but creating the Pokemons only in our admin is not the best idea. So that's why here, our second bullet point, we're gonna do this page for create listings, okay? So we're gonna have one page that is gonna display all the fields we need to fill in to create a new listing. So let's start doing this. So we're gonna start creating here in our views.py, all right, we're gonna start creating the function for create listing. So I'm gonna put right here, def create listing. We're gonna need request, okay, and we're gonna have an if and a get and a post method, because the get will display the page and the post we're gonna get the data. So we're gonna start with the get method because I want to show you how we're gonna build the page. So request.method equals get, okay. We want to render an HTML file, so we're gonna do return render request, and here auctions / create.html. This create.html we don't have so far, so that's why I'm gonna create this new file in here. In auctions, I'm gonna create a new file called create.html. Okay, this create.html, I'm gonna copy everything we have in index, and I'm gonna reuse in create. And here I'm gonna replace the h2 with create new listing. Okay. Then now that we built the function in here in our views, we need to make this in the URL. So I'm gonna have here a path create views.create listing, and the name will be equals to create. Okay, that's it. Now, how can we access? Let's add this in our navbar. All right, so let's add this in here in the navbar of our project, only if we are logged in. So we can only create new listings if we are logged in. So inside this, if user is authenticated, we're gonna do something pretty similar to this one. So you can copy and paste, and we're gonna change in here to create, and here I'm gonna display a message saying create listing. Okay, so let's see how it looks like. If I refresh, now we have the create listing. I'm just gonna switch the order with the logout because I think it's better to put the logout as the last option. Okay, but this is more about me and my way of thinking. Okay, create listing. So it's working so far. Now we need to put all of these fields that we are using to create a new listing. So title, description, image, price, and category, all right, and let the user select these options. I'm not gonna put this is active because I want to let the default true. And the owner, we're gonna create a logic behind that only the person that is logged in can create a listing for himself, okay, not for others. So we're gonna build this for this form inputs here and a drop down for the category. Okay, so let's start building the 4 forms. We're gonna use Bootstrap. All right, we're gonna use this email address from Bootstrap in here, and like we saw previously, we don't need to link here the Bootstrap here in this line 7. It's already linked. All right, CS50 already gave to us, so we can start working with the div. So before, I'm gonna create a form, and the form we need action. What is action? Action is the place where we're gonna send the data that we're adding in this form. So here I'm gonna send it to create function. Okay, and I also want to say the method. So method here will be equals to post. All right, now I'm gonna start adding the div that we copy from the Bootstrap. So if I save and I show you in here, this is how it looks like so far. So we can change this email address, enter email, and this message for the things that we want to display. So in our case, I'm gonna remove this small because this is not needed, okay? Here, I'm gonna change this email for blah, blah, blah. If you use Command D, it will change for both. I'm gonna put here title. Okay, the type here, I'm gonna put text because here's the type of the text. This area, blah, 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 I will remove. This is not needed. And here, it's not enter email address. Here, I'm gonna change to, let me see, enter email address. Here email address, I wanna say title. And in the placeholder, I wanna say enter title. Okay, here I'm gonna say enter title this way, and here I'm gonna put enter title. So if I refresh in here, now we have these changes, enter title, okay? Actually, I'm gonna remove the word enter and I will just let title. All right, this is the way. Now we can copy this and we can make the same for the description, image URL, and the price. So we can copy this and we paste 3 more times and we replace this title. One thing that is important, I'm gonna do Command Z first. Every time we're working with input, we need a name property, all right? And this name property is important to identify what data we're getting from the user for each field. So remember to add this before you copy and paste for the other 3. Now, every time we have title here, we're gonna change to description. Okay, I'm just gonna capitalize here this description and this description. Here, again, every time we have title, I'm gonna change to image URL. So image URL, okay, and here I'm gonna change to image URL separated, here as well, image URL. And here, every time we have title, I'm gonna change to price. And then here, I forgot to change this one, price. And I wanna make it capital in here. Oops. So if we take a look, now we have 4 inputs, okay? One thing that I really want to do as well is here, the price, it will be a number. So here I can change to number, okay? And if you see, if I refresh, I can type in a number, like 1.1, all right? It's not gonna be a number. And here we can change the number, all right? It's different from the text. What are the other things? Now we need to display the category and the button. I'm gonna do the button first, okay? So here I'm gonna grab a button from Bootstrap, this success button here. So let me copy from here and add in our div. So here I'm gonna change to create new listing, and here the button we need to change to type submit, okay, otherwise it won't work. So let's refresh in here. Now it's displaying this create new listing. Now finally we need to make this drop down for the category, right? So how can we create a drop down? We're gonna use the select tag. Basically the select tag, here this one, we're gonna use to create something like this, all right, where we can select the option that we want. So it will be pretty much this. I copy from W3 Schools. That is a really good resource for working with this. So I'm gonna create a div here just to make it a different row. Class equals to form group, okay. And I'm gonna paste the select inside of here. So let me fix the indentation, great. Here where it's cars, I'm gonna change to category, okay. Here choose a category, I want to change, and let's see what we have so far, okay. So if I refresh, it's displaying this drop down to choose a category, all right. But I want to select the categories we have available in our database. So we need to find a way of getting all of these categories that we have in here. And how can we do this? We need to send the data from our views.py to our HTML. So to do this, we're going to create a variable called all categories. Okay, and how can we manipulate? Let's take a look at the lecture 4. Basically, if we want to query all the, in this case, we're working with flight. Okay, in our case, we were working with listing. But if we want to get all the flights stored in the database, so all the listings, all the categories we have in our database, we have to use the name of the table, all right, the name of the class, in our case, category, .objects.all. And this will get us all the categories we have available in the database. So here we're going to say, first I need to import here, category and listing. And here we're going to say category.objects.all. And in here, I'm going to send this data through the dictionary. So I'm going to call categories, and I'm going to call here all categories, okay? One thing that is important to see, the name that we have in here in orange is how we're going to call in HTML, and this left, the right part is how we're calling in Python, okay? So now to display this, we just need a for loop, all right? So I'm going to make a for loop in here, and I'm going to call for cat in categories, for example. Then after the option, we need to end the for loop, so we do end for. And in the option, we need to display, let's see what is cat. Okay, so if we want to display a variable, we need double curly bracket. And let's see here what is cat. If I refresh, cat here, it's exactly the name of each category we have available, okay? So this is it, what we need to do for the get method. Now we need to work with, every time we add data in here, we want to click in the button and send the data to our backend. So how can we do this? So now we're going to work with the post method. So here we can say else, okay? And this means that we're working with the post method. And like we have in here in the login view, okay? And what we need to do, so first we need to get the data from the form. Okay, then we need to insert the data in our, create a new object actually, create a new listing object, and finally insert the object in our database. Okay, and finally we want to redirect to the index page, so redirect to index page. Okay, so how can we get the data from the form? In here basically we have 5 things we have to grab from the form. So we're going to grab doing title equals to request.post, and in here we put the name that we gave here in the form. So here the name I gave title, so I'm going to put here title. Then I'm going to create a variable called description, and I'm going to get the description from the form. So here request.post, and what is the name that I gave for the description? The name here, description. Okay, and we're going to do for every field that we have. So I'm going to just copy and paste. We want to get this for all the fields that we have. So for we have image URL, we have price, and we have here the category. Okay, we can get as well, we need to know who is the user. So who is the user? How can we get the user? Basically we can get the user by using the request so we need to know who is the user. Basically we're going to create here the current user, for example, and we're going to use the request.user, because since we only allow people to enter in this page, create listing, if the user is logged in, we can use the request.user, so it will give us who is the user that is available right now. Then how can we create a new listing? So basically a new listing object. If we take a look in here, again in the same example, if we want to create a new object, we create a variable, and we use the name of the class and put all the fields with the value that we want. Okay, so let's do this first and then we do the second part. So in here, if I want to create a new listing, let me split here into two. I'm going to say new listing equals true. And I'm going to say listing, that is the name of the class that we have. And here inside, I'm going to put all the fields. So title will be equals to, the title on the left side is here in models.py, and the title in the right side is this variable title here. Description equals to description. Image URL equals to image URL. Price equals to, here we need to cast our price, so here I'm going to do float price. We need to convert our price into a float number. Then we're going to say category equals to category, and owner equals to current user. Okay? Then we need to insert the object in the database. So if we take a look in here, to do this we say f.save. F is the variable we store the new object. So we just need to do new listing.save. So new listing.save. And finally, if we want to redirect, I believe we have here the HTTP response redirect. Perfect. We're going to do return HTTP response redirect reverse to index. All right, I believe it will work, so let's test. Let me just double check one thing. So here in the create, one thing that I forgot, every time we're working with form, we need the srf token. So srf token is needed, okay? Otherwise, Django won't allow us to do this. So let's test. Probably it will crash, but never knows. So I'm gonna create here for Bulbasaur, and now let's see. Now price, I'm going to put 15, for example, and category plant. Let's see, if I click here, create new listing, okay, it's saying cannot assign Volvo. Listing category must be a category listing. So I kind of know what is the problem. Here, in the create listing, we need to change the value to cat. It can't be Volvo. So here, cat, okay? Let's try to run it again. If I try to submit again, let me go back and I will refresh in here, add the things again, and I will be right back. So let's say right now, if I click create new listing, it's saying cannot assign plant, listing category must be a category instance. So basically we need to grab the whole data about this particular category when we are assigning in here. Okay, so what are we gonna do? I'm gonna create in here, before we start, I'm gonna create here get all content about the particular category. And this makes sense because here I'm just getting the name of the category, but we need to actually send this data here. So what are we going to do? We're going to create a category data, and it will be, we're going to get the category.objects.get because we want to specifically get the data about the category that we selected, and we're going to say the category name should be equals to the category we're getting from the form. And this will be the category data that we're gonna insert in our table, okay? So if I refresh, we probably will crash again because we need to do the same for the user. But let's see, it's important to check. Here I'm gonna put 15, and here it's plant. If I click, all right, it is created. Let's see, it didn't crash, so let's see the listing. Here we have Bulbasaur and everything working fine. Bulbasaur, description, image URL, price, the owner, and the plant. So far, so good. Okay, this is good, so it's working. All right, now we need to work with the active listings page. So now we're gonna display in this index page all the active listings, okay? And what is the good thing about the listings that we're creating? We have this checkbox here saying if it's active or not. So we can check if it's active or not, if this is a Boolean, this is true or not. So how can we do this? Here, we just wanna display, we're gonna create here, I'm gonna create here a variable active listings, and I want to get all the listings, all the Pokemons that are still active. So I'm going to filter and I'm going to check if this is active is equals to true. Okay, so we need to get the class listing dot objects dot filter. So we're going to filter. And we want to check if the is active field is equals to true. Okay. Then we want to send this data to our front end. We want to send this to our HTML. So here I'm going to create a variable listings. And here I'm going to say active listings. Okay. Now let's work with the index.html. So basically here in the index.html, we're gonna do a loop, all right? We want a loop for listing in listings. And here I'm gonna do an and for. And right now, I just want to display the listing name, okay? Because later on, I want to make the correct styling for everything. First, I just want to check. So here, I'm going to do listing.title, for example. And let's see if it's working. So if I refresh, so it's displaying all the Pokemons that we have available, okay? So the part of this is working, but I want to make it look nicer, okay? So we're going to use some cards. So I'm gonna use this card here from Bootstrap, okay, and I'm gonna, in every iteration, I'm gonna use this card in here, okay? It's really good because we can put the image, the title, the description, and to click to go to see the details, okay? So this is what we're gonna do in here. Basically, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna use here the div, okay? Let me fix the indentation for all of this. So if I fix in here, then we're gonna change. Here in the image, I wanna put what will be our source. So it will be the listing.image URL. Okay, and here I'm gonna put the alt message for this image. I'm gonna put the image title, the listing title, okay. Then for the body, we have H5, that will be the title. So here I'm gonna say listing.title. For the paragraph, I wanna put the description of the Pokemon. So here I'm gonna say listing.description, okay. And here in this A tag, I'm gonna leave this way. So let's see how it looks like if I refresh in here. Now we're seeing the Charmander and the Bulbasaur, okay. But I wanna put all of them one next to the other. So I'm gonna put everything in a div, then I'm gonna give the name row. And this is a div that we have on Bootstrap, and we can use this in here. So here, if I use this way and I refresh, we're adding, it didn't change. Let me see what we can do. So I was able to fix. The problem was that I was trying to use the row inside the for loop, but it actually is outside, okay? So since we are already in here, let's already do the next bullet point. That is the categories. We should be able to visit a page that displays a list of all categories, all listing categories. Click on the name of the category and we're gonna be redirected to this other one. So basically we're gonna create a drop down, a button in here. When we click, it will redirect us to a page similar to this, but with only the category we selected. For example, only fire, water, or plant. Okay, so first we're gonna start creating here a button. Okay, actually I'm gonna create here a form and I'm gonna give an action. Right now I'm gonna leave it empty and I'm gonna give a method equals to post. And why I'm gonna give a form? Because depending on what the user selects, we're gonna see in here what we want. So here's CSRF token, great. And I wanna pass a hidden input. So here I'm gonna create a variable called input. It will be a type hidden, so it won't be visual to the user. I'm gonna give a name equals to category, and the value will be equals to the category we're gonna receive, okay? Actually, this input type hidden, it's not gonna be a type hidden, I'm so sorry. We're gonna use the select again. All right, I said something wrong. So we're gonna use the select here again. We're gonna put this form here that we use in the create. Okay, and we're gonna have here a label, choose category, blah, 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 and we're gonna do the same, okay? Category, blah, blah, blah. All right, and like we're doing here, we have to send this category the same way as we did when we were creating in here. So basically, we have to pass the category, how are we calling? Categories, the same thing as we did in the create categories, all categories. Okay, and now if we refresh in here, it will appear all the categories. Okay, this is basically it. Now what we have to do, once we hit in here, we want to be redirected to a page where only displays the Pokemons for this category. So basically in here, we're going to create a new action. I'm going to give a name for URL and I'm going to call it display category, for example. Okay, so I'm going to save in this action. I'm going to create here the path in our URL. So create display category. Views.display category and name equals to display category. Okay, now let's create this function. So I'm gonna put in here def display category request, and what we want to render, basically the same thing as we are seeing the index, right? But not only active, but with the filter that we want. So basically we're gonna copy all of we have in the index, we're gonna paste, but we're gonna add one more extra filter we wanna do in here. So we're gonna say comma, category equals to the category we selected. Okay? So here I'm gonna say if request dot method equals post. I'm gonna change all of this because I skipped some paths. First, we need to get the category from the user, from the form. Okay, so we're gonna say request.post. And here, if we take a look in the index, we're calling it category, the name category. So here we're gonna say category. Then we need to make a category, and we have to find what is the category that has this name object.get category name equals to category from the form, and that's pretty much what we need. And then here it will select only the active categories, only the active listings for this particular category. So let's try it out. If I click here water, actually we need a button. This is a good idea. Let's add a button in this form, hard to fire. Submit, and here I'm gonna say select category, for example, button, and I'm gonna give a class from Bootstrap equals to btn warning, for example. Okay, let's refresh. So I selected here water, for example, and I click select. So I wrote it badly. So on our line, which line? 22 from views, I miswrote. I have a typo here. Category. And if I go back and refresh, if I select plant and I click select, now it's displaying only Bulbasaur. If I select water, we have no from water. If I select fire, it displays fire. Okay, so now we're able to select here the category. All right, I'm just gonna give here a margin. So here class equals to my3. And if I give this margin, okay, continue, it's a little bit better. Okay, so pretty much this that we have in our project. We have a couple of things to work, but the categories we did. So far we did create listing, active listings, category, and the Django interface, admin interface, okay? Now we need to work with the watch list and the listing page that are the worst part. So let's start with the listing page. So now we're gonna work with creating the listing page, right? So to do this first, let's make this button that once we click in here, we go to a new page for this listing, okay? So I'm gonna close these files and I'm gonna create here a path called listing. slash, and here I'm gonna use this int equals to int equals to ID. So here we're gonna enter by the ID of the user, and we're gonna use views.listing and name equals to listing. We did this about using numbers, all right, in Wiki. So we're gonna use this again, all right, and it will make our life much easier. Then we're gonna create a function called we're gonna define listing, so def listing, and here we're gonna have request, and we're gonna receive the ID from this listing, the ID of the listing. Okay, right now we're gonna do return render, and I want to render a listing auctions slash listing.html. Okay, I want to test if it's working. So here I'm going to create an auction on a new folder called listing.html. Okay, and basically here I'm going to copy things from index and remove. So let me copy and change things in here. All right, so I'm just going to say h2, I want to say hello, just to check if it's working. So if I refresh it, nothing will change because we didn't change the button in index. So here, what we're going to do here, we want to go to URL listing, and we need to send the ID. So here ID equals to listing.id. Okay, so this way we're sending the ID of this listing. Then here I'm gonna say check. I'm gonna just say details. Okay, so let's test if it's working. If I click here in details, we're going to here we can see ID 1. All right, if I click in details for Bulbasaur, here it's ID 2. So we're able to go to the listing for each particular Pokemon in here. All right, now let's start adding things in this page. So basically, what do we need? We need to display the listing title, the image, the description, price, and then some details. Okay, so to do this, I'm gonna add in here. I'm gonna close my index. In here, I'm gonna say Pokemon, and here I'm gonna display the one thing that is important. First, we need to pass what is the listing, so listing details, listing data will be equals to listing. We need to grab the data from our database objects.get, where primary key is equals to this ID that we're receiving. And now I'm gonna say listing here, and it will be equals to listing data. All right, so far so good. So here I'm gonna say listing.title. Oops. Okay, let's see if it's working. So if I refresh and I go here to Charmander, saying Pokemon Charmander. Now we need to put an image. So here we can say image src equals to double curly bracket listing.image URL, and the out message will be the listing title. Okay. Then we're gonna have a paragraph for the description, listing.description. Then I'm gonna have the price, so I'm gonna have an H6 for the price, listing.price, H6. And the owner, I think it's a good thing to get. So here, not only this, the paragraph, and after I wanna give the description and the owner. So here P, owner, listing.owner. Okay, so here we can set some things, and if we take a look here, it's saying everything. The owner is not displaying, so we have to do, oh, I have a mistypo here, owner. I think H6 is too little, and I want to put a $sign in front, so here I'm gonna put an H4. Okay, if I refresh now, it's more clear. What is this? And I'm gonna set a height for this image. So even if we change the standard here, it will be this height. So here it will be this way always. Okay. So here we're displaying all the details about this listing. All right. Now we can start working with some other things. So for example, here it's telling us in the listing to create a watch list if the user is signed in. Okay, so we're gonna create a button that we're gonna allow the user to add in the watch list or remove from the watch list if the user is logged in. Okay, so here in the top, I'm gonna create this. All right, I'm gonna create a div class equals to row. All right, and I'm gonna close the div, and I'm gonna start creating here a if statement. And how can we check if the user is authenticated? We can take a look in here. Do you see? If user is authenticated, we can check if the user is authenticated. So if user is authenticated, we're gonna, and here I'm gonna do and if the user is authenticated, I'm gonna let the user add a button. But here we need to check if the listing is already in the watch list or not, right? And we need to make the logic for a watch list or not. So what are we gonna do? So basically for the watch list, we're gonna add a many-to-many relationship for each listing. And how the many-to-many relationship work? Basically, like we can saw in here in this example of the lecture, a passenger can be in multiple flights. So what we're gonna do in our case, one listing can be in multiple watch lists for different people. So here we're gonna add this many-to-many field in our listing. Okay, so we're gonna work here with models, and we're gonna create here the watch list field. So watch list will be equals to a many-to-many field. Here, this many-to-many field will be related to user, so a user can have a listing can be in many users' watch list. Here, I'm gonna select null equals to true as well because the previous Pokemon that we have, it wasn't working. And here, I'm gonna put user. Okay? Then we need to stop here our terminal, and we need to run the Python make migrations and migrate. So let's see here. It's complaining about the name that we're giving. So here I'm gonna say listing watch list. For example, let's see again. If I run this in here, all right, now it's creating. Then after making migrations, we need to migrate, and we can run it again. Let's see if it didn't crash anything. All right, so if I refresh in here, nothing broke. Okay, and you can take a look in here now that we have this watch list. So basically here we're setting G to watch list, but we can fix this. Okay, the watch list will accept many different people. All right, so now what are we gonna do? We need to check if the watch list is in our, the user has this in his watch list. Okay, so basically what are we gonna do? We're gonna do a try and accept. We're gonna try to check if the user is in the watch list. Okay, so we're gonna do is listing in watch list, and right now I'm gonna, instead of doing try and accept, I'm gonna set this to true because I want to make it simple. Okay, and then we can work with this, but I'm gonna send this variable is listing in watch list, and I'm gonna send. In the future we can work with this, like I said, listing in watch list. Okay, so we're gonna check if this variable is true. So if is listing in watch list, what we want to display, let's right now do an H1 saying remove from watch list, remove, and the else will be we want to add. So if it's not in the watch list, else we want to add. Okay, and let's